the Caps. Well, that's it. Good night, everybody. No, the Capitals have had logos I've liked. Oh wait, this has got some smudgy crap on it. Jerseys I've liked. I've got the Capitol building Capitals jersey as well. Flag up in my window. I've been a Capitals fan, and on this channel I've been accused of currently being a Capitals fan. I like certain members of the Capitals, but Ovechkin usually pushes it too far. So there's two prongs I'm going to do this video from. Two ways I'm going to hit this video. Hi, Bear. First time she's come up to see me all day, and it's because I'm recording. Hi, sweetie. Whoops. See, my kitty. So there's two things about the Capitals that I think are important to look at here. One is their playoff history, which is not great. The second thing to look at for the Capitals is Alex Ovechkin. Hi, sweetie. You haven't come out to see me all day. Now it's nighttime, and I'm doing a video, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to come hang out. Yeah, 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 you're going to come hang out now, are you? Hey? Hello. Oh, and you're purring too. All right, so for this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the Capitals' history. And from 1974, the 74-75 season, which was their first, through 81-82, they never made the playoffs. Their win totals were as follows. They had 8, then 11, then 24, then 17, 24, 27, 26, 26. 1983, they finished with 94 points. They had 39 wins, 16 ties, but then they lost the first round to the New York Islanders. They lost in 5. Or in 4. It was a best of 5 series. They lost 3 games to 1. 1984, they get 101 points. They finished second in the Patrick division. What are you after, sweetie? They finished second in the Patrick division, and they won in the first round. They swept the Flyers in 3 games, and then they lost the division finals to the Islanders 4 games to 1. 1985, 101 points again. They lost the first round to the New York Islanders. They lost in 5, 3 games to 2. 1986, hey look, they played the Islanders again. They got 107 points. They beat the Islanders 3 games straight. Then they lost to the Rangers in 6. 1987, and this was of that huge, long overtime game. Oh, hi, sweetie. The long overtime game in 1987, which Pat LaFontaine finished off. The New York Islanders won round 1 in 7. If you're seeing a pattern, let me know in the comments. 1988, they finished with 85 points. They were still second in the Patrick, and they beat the Flyers 4 games to 3, and then they lost to the Devils 4 games to 3. So they look better. That was their best finish. Hi. Hello, baby. I know you're a nice kitty. Yes, you're a nice kitty. And this was when the Patrick was basically the best division in hockey. The Adams was hotly contested. The Norris was the brutal, rough, black and blue Norris. And the Smythe was the home of the Flames and the Oilers, the 2 best teams in hockey. But the Patrick was rough. I mean, the worst team in the Patrick at this point was still very good. 1989, they finished first in the Patrick with 92 points, and they lost in the first round to the Flyers. 1990, they finished with 78 points, or sub 500 team, yet somehow they won in the first round against the Devils in 6, 4 games to 2. Then they beat the Rangers in 5, 4 games to 1, and lost the conference finals to Boston 4 straight. 1991, they beat the Rangers in the first round 4 games to 2, and they lost to the Penguins in 5 games, 4 games to 1. 1992, they lost the first round to the Penguins 4 games to 3. 1993, they lost the first round to New York Islanders 4 games to 2. 1994, they beat Pittsburgh 4 games to 2, and then they lost to the Rangers 4 games to 1. 1995, a strike shortened season. Hello, what, you missed me today all of a sudden? All of a sudden you missed me? You didn't miss me the rest of the time I know. You didn't miss me the rest of the time I've been here today, sweetie. They lost in the first round that year to the Penguins, 4-3. 1996, they finished with 89 points. They're fourth in the Atlantic, and they lost to Pittsburgh 4-2. 1997, they didn't make the playoffs. 1998, they make the playoffs. They won the first round against Boston 4-2. Then they beat the Ottawa Senators 4-1. They beat the Buffalo Sabres 4-2 and got swept in the Stanley Cup Finals by the Detroit Red Wings. That was their best year, their best result. 1999, they didn't make the playoffs. In 2000, they get back to the playoffs and lose in 5 games in the first round to the Pittsburgh Penguins. 2001, they lose to the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round in 6. 2002, didn't make the playoffs. 2003, they lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round, 4-2. 2004, they didn't make it to the playoffs. 2006, they didn't make it to the playoffs. 2007, they didn't make it to the playoffs. 2008, they get back to the playoffs, now with this Ovechkin kid, and they lose 4-3. 2009, they make it back to the playoffs. They get 108 points. They beat the Rangers in the first round 4-3 and lost to Pittsburgh in the second round 4-3. 2010, they win the President's Trophy, 121 points. Everything looks fantastic. But they lost in the first round to the Montreal Canadiens 4-3. 2011, they beat the Rangers in the first round 4-1 and lose to Tampa Bay 4 straight. 2012, they beat the Bruins 4-3 in the first round and lost to the Rangers 4-3 in the second round. 2013, they lost to the Rangers in the first round 4-3. 2014, they didn't make the playoffs. 2015, they beat the Islanders in the first round 4-3. They lost to the Rangers 4-3. 2016, they beat the Flyers 4-2 and lost to Pittsburgh 4-2. There's a pattern. If you look really close, there's a pattern when you look at Washington. They don't win. The 80s, the mid to late 80s, I was a pretty big fan of Washington, of the guys that wore this jersey. I was a pretty big fan of the Scott Stevens, Rod Langway, Dennis Maruk bunch, of a team that gave Don Beaupre a shot at goaltending again, after he'd been out of Minnesota. Pretty sure he went from Minnesota to Washington. I was a large Washington fan. I liked Ole the goalie too. Adam Oates played there for a while. I was very happy to see Adam Oates play well for Washington. And then they got Ovi, and it just sort of turned on that. But the other thing that turned is, you'll notice there was a recurring theme. Oh, look, it's Pittsburgh. Well, we're done. And it's the Rangers. Well, we're done. And that seems to be the recurring theme for the team overall. Washington is an organization that has struggled with the whole winning thing. But let's talk about the team that went to the Stanley Cup Final, shall we? The 97-98 Washington Capitals were no regular season juggernaut, but they bled character, which proved to be a catalyst for an unlikely run to the Stanley Cup Final. The Capitals boasted the league's top penalty kill and the highest winning percentage after trailing in the first period, showcasing their heart and a desire to compete. With captain Dale Hunter, who sits second all-time in penalty minutes, and a new pragmatic bench boss named Ron Wilson, the team had a solid backbone. Up front, they were propelled by franchise points leader Peter Bondra. I like Bondra too, who netted 52 goals that season, along with skilled pivots Adam Oates and Joe Juneau. Not a huge Juneau fan. On the back end, which featured dependable Kelly Johansson and freewheeling Phil Housley, the Caps were effective. The team also had ripening stars Andrew Burnett and Sergei Gonchar, not to mention standout goaltender Olaf Kolzig, as I mentioned, Ole the goalie, who posted a 2.20 goals against average and .920 save percentage, padding his franchise lead in wins and shutouts. Fueled by a 6-2-1 record down the stretch, the Capitals finished fourth in the East and watched the top 3 seeds, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, get upended in the first round, clearing the way for the Caps to leverage home ice the rest of the way. They did their part in knocking off Boston, Ottawa, and Buffalo, winning 6 overtime games. We all felt, myself included, that it was destiny, Kolzig said. Facing off against a dynasty in Detroit, the Caps' championship dreams came to a sudden halt. The Wings swept the series to capture their second consecutive Stanley Cup. You're just as disappointed as a team who doesn't make the playoffs because you didn't win the cup, Kolzig said. But nobody expected us or had any expectations of us to go to the final and lose to Detroit. We kind of hang our hat on that. So they hung their collective hat on that. Now, let me look up the other deal with the Capitals. Because whether I like the guy or I don't, and I don't, I still state that Alex Ovechkin is the best goal scorer in NHL history. Now, I say this not because I think he's going to be the #1 goal scorer at the end of it all, although he could be. He's only 31 and he has 537 goals. He has 984 points in 860 games. By 80s standards, that's pretty good. By today's standards, that's baffling, mind-boggling, and amazing. He only has 447 assists, so he is a Cy Young winner a lot of seasons. And he had more assists early on in his career than he's had later. So he's got more selfish in his game, and you can debate about whether that's because his teammates aren't as good or whatever it is. Hey, you want a kiss? Okay. So you you've ignored me all day, kitty. All day, Bear, you've ignored me. You've wanted nothing to do with me. You slept in that cupboard, and you're like, I am perfectly fine in this cupboard. I'm not coming out. I even called you. I had treats, everything, and you're like, I'm not coming out. Now that I'm doing a video, you're like, I'm gonna come out and hang out with you. And be super duper affectionate too. Anyways, his rookie season, he has 106 points, 52 goals, and right there he sets the bar way high. His second year, 92 points, 46 goals. Third year, 65 goals. Let's just go through goal totals: 65, 56, 50, 32, 38, and at that point people were like, well, maybe the 50 goal seasons are done. Then you have the strike shortened season, 48 games, he has 32 goals. Since then, he had 51, 53, and 50. But his assist totals are weird. 54, 46, 47, 54, 59, 53, 27, 24 in the strike shortened season, 28, 28, 21. And this year he has 12 goals and 6 assists. So he is a goal scoring machine. And, you know, you could compare him to Mike Bossy, and Bossy had a lot of 50 goal seasons. A lot. Mike Bossy was, you could just book it. If he was healthy, he was a 50 goal scorer, and that was it. And then when his back went, he was done. And Gretzky, of course, his goal totals probably never going to get beaten. But I personally look at Ovechkin, and even as a guy who doesn't like Ovechkin much at all, I look at him and I say, okay, he can probably get 3 more 50 goal seasons. So at 150 goals, he's at 687. The tail off's going to start. It's a matter of, does he go to the KHL, which is possible. If the NHL decides to back out of the Olympics, this guy's totals could just go off to the KHL, and this argument may be moot. But he has a realistic shot at scoring 800 plus goals in his career. I could see it. He's in good shape. He's motivated, and all he does is score goals. That is quite literally basically all he does. He gets a lot of hits. He's been slammed for his plus minus, and I know there's people who don't like that stat. But you look at him in the playoffs too: 84 games, 41 goals, 41 assists, 82 points. I've often over the years jokingly referred to him as Ovechchoke. But the last few times that the Capitals have been eliminated, I haven't called him that because I've seen that he's suffered in Washington from similar to what other stars around the NHL do, that the team relies really heavily on them, and if you have one guy who can score and everybody else gets shut down, you're not going anywhere in the playoffs. my issue is, as a guy who's wanted to cheer for the Capitals, goes beyond Ovechkin. My issue with the Capitals is they failed so many times, so miserably, and usually to the same teams. Like if the playoffs started, the last time I checked, if the playoffs had started today, that they'd play Pittsburgh in the first round. That's just death. That's death for for Washington. Pittsburgh, you're done. It's over. Uh, what if it's the Rangers? They're done. It's over. Washington has a horrible record against both Pittsburgh and the Rangers. Not a great one against the Islanders either. Like I said, the Patrick division in the '80s was brutal, and then the Atlantic division from there was brutal to Washington as well. The Capitals are the Capitals are in that place where I'm not a bandwagon fan, but I already have one team locally that flag points to that they seem to disappoint in the playoffs a lot. And it's exhausting enough cheering for a team that does that, cheering for two teams that do that. And then the other thing with Washington is they've done their teardowns and they've managed to get better coming out of a couple of teardowns. But while they have all the parts to win a Stanley Cup, and I am still taking them to win the Stanley Cup this year. That's the thing. Would I be surprised if they lost? No. Would anybody be surprised if the Capitals lost in the playoffs? No. Would any of us be surprised if Washington won a Stanley Cup? Yes. But I can see it happening. In terms of where the team is at right now, as opposed to where it's going to be, like tonight as I'm recording this, which is November 26th, they lost in Toronto. And these black hole games that they lose occasionally are that warning sign, that blip on the radar that you look at and you say, well, I want to say that the Capitals are gonna come through on my prediction, but it's tough because they do lose these games that are winnable that you look at on the schedule and you go, okay, this should be a win. So again, I'm not using the books as much as I have in other videos. I'm not going to get into stat leaders for Washington because for me, Washington isn't as much about the stats and who's the king of it. And spoiler alert, it's going to be Peter Bondra and Alex Ovechkin. They're going to be your kings of the Caps. And in goal, it's going to be Olaf Kolzig and this Holtby kid who's pretty damn good. And again, my reasoning behind me seeing the Capitals as a team that wins the Stanley Cup this year, Holtby's arguably top 4 goaltender in the NHL. If you want to put Carey Price as number 1, Corey Crawford as top 2, and then 3 you could argue Rask, you could argue Lundqvist, you could argue a few different guys, but Holtby's in that mix. Holtby is definitely in that mix. And that's what you need to win in the playoffs as a good goaltender, a great goaltender. And as a person who would like to see the Capitals win a cup, not because I cheer for them, because I think every team should have a shot at winning a Stanley Cup. I think it's good for the fans, it's good for an organization. And in Washington's case, there's been a lot of suffering for Capitals fans. Why am I getting message? Actually, I think that's a YouTube message. I have a feeling that's a YouTube message. Yep. All right. I turned my sound back on my phone. It's been off the last little while. Anyways, yeah, I'm not going to make this an overly long video. I did that last night. Basically, if you're a Capitals fan and you're just browsing through, you just found the channel, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Tomorrow will be the Winnipeg video. That'll be the end of that. And then I will come up with a new set of videos. I don't consider myself to be done for tonight. But I wanted to make sure I did this video first. I want these to be up timely, and honestly, to have a video playlist of 30 videos and having that symmetry on the channel is just fantastic. Anyways, best of luck to the Caps. I hope Ovechkin learns to stop doing things that make me angry when I watch him play hockey, because I want to cheer for him, clearly. If I state that a guy is the best goal scorer, best pure goal scorer I've seen. I mean, Mario Lemieux could score from anywhere on the ice, and he was amazing in his own right. But Lemieux had all kinds of other parts of his game. I'm just saying, as pure sniper, Ovechkin the best. I would put Ovechkin at number one. I would put Mario Lemieux at number two. Um, I would probably put Brett Hull at number three, Bure at number four, and Gretzky at number five. And that's just in the time I've watched hockey. So before anybody types in about Gordie Howe or anybody else, I'm talking about guys that I've watched. Those are the five players that I would say were the best goal scorers, best when they get the puck, you go, oh crap, and you know what, you're probably gonna be fishing it out of your own net. Um, Anyways, yeah, I have other ideas for a video later on tonight, and we'll see which one I use. But for now, this is the end of the caps, and I've gone out, put my neck out many times about this. I am still saying they will win a Stanley Cup this year. This either will really bite me in the ass in April, or I'm gonna look like a genius. Um, I'm not betting on the genius. Not even this much. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to y'all again soon.